Joining me here this evening. I'd like to start you all off by asking you a question. What is the lowest you have ever been and the highest you have ever climbed? What is the deepest hole you've ever been in with your life, and how did you stay on task to reach your greatest success? I've been researching communication and psychology here at NAU. I've been a part of the interdisciplinary studies program. And with my two disciplines of psychology and communication, I found a unique project that was very close to me as it directly affected my life, of how communication falls within motivation and how it can affect motivation. One thing I have learned, especially from my own personal experience, is how motivation can differ from one person to the next. There are many commonalities between one person to another, but everyone is motivated differently. Everyone has potential to be motivated, and every individual is motivated in a very original and unique way, along with some commonalities in between every person. So as I go through this presentation here, I'm going to touch base on a few things. I'm going to talk about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, his motivational theory to what motivates us as humans, Frederick Herzberg's two-factor theory of motivation. I'm also going to talk to you about how communication itself affects motivation and the styles of communication that go along with it. So to start off by the whole thing, we need to cover the two types of motivation that there are. And this is a commonality between every person from every range. There is extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is driven by an external source or an external reward to motivate you internally, whereas intrinsic is something that is done from within yourself. Examples of extrinsic is money, food, a prize, go on a vacation, whatever it may be. Any most typical things that you use to motivate yourself are usually intrinsic. Intrinsic is something of yourself wanting to feel like you master something, feeling good about yourself. I want to finish my work early so I don't feel stressed over the weekend. That is intrinsic. I want to go back to school to learn massage therapy just because I want to be able to say, I learned it and I want to know something more. Those are great examples of the two types of motivations, and those are kind of your basis for everything. No matter what you use to be motivated, it falls within those two categories. Now, psychologist Abraham Maslow, with that in mind, what we just talked about, he has his own theory called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it talks about what, why, and when people become motivated. So over here on the board behind me, there is a pyramid that kind of structures and illustrates his definition of how we're motivated. So at the very bottom of the pyramid, this is the base. We have the physiological needs of every human, and every human has them. These needs need to be met for survival before any of the other ones. Physiological means something is, for lack of better words, prehistoric. Water, food, air, rest, good health. Those are physiological needs that need to be met, and we require them all as humans. We are always motivated to make sure that we have those essentials with us. Above that is safety, and we need shelter. We will always be motivated to stay out of harm's way in any danger. We are never the type of people, even if we are more of the fight sense of our flight, we always want shelter. Above that is love and admiration. And love and admiration is something that as humans we always need and always feel like we should have within ourselves. Otherwise we can stumble upon bigger issues like depression and all these other things that can bring our lives down. Above that is having self-esteem. We need to be able to understand that we are worth everything. We're worth living. We know who we are. And that kind of blends into self-actualization. And this kind of comes into everything else in the world. Having money, having a family, self-actualization. Understand that you are worth living. You are a good person, and you are special. Those are Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And every human, for the most part, will always associate with those, and that's kind of a commonality. Now, when you get to different aspects in the self-actualization part, that's when we all branch out. So there are many scenarios besides basic survival that Maslow talks about that motivates us to do things. And a big area of our lives is the workplace and how we're motivated in the workplace. So Herzberg's two factors of motivation come into play here. And there are two big factors. One factor he calls it the motivators, and one he calls it the hygiene. Motivators are similar to intrinsic stimuli, whereas you want to feel good about yourself, you want to see yourself do better, get the promotion. Now, I say similar because they're not exactly the same. Having a promotion is actually an extrinsic motivator. It is something out there that you can actually grasp, you can go get. It's not just what's going on. It's something out there that is going to happen to you from an external source to make you feel motivated. But it's similar. So, and then there's the hygiene factors, which are more extrinsic, words money, more pay, go on a vacation. So in the workplace, these two factors from what Frederick Herzberg has talked about motivates us to do better in the workplace. And with that being said, the two disciplines that I am studying, psychology, communication, I'm able to kind of blend these all together now. And with that being said, there are multiple things that go into play when you communicate to motivating yourself or someone else. Now, you can use communication to motivate yourself. Intrinsic, you can still self-talk. It's a type of communication. But a lot of times you will see communication with motivation dealt with the external, the extrinsic motivation. And a lot of times that's going up to somebody. A popular or a common scenario would be a coach to a player for a sports team. A coach will need to motivate his or her players to go out there and perform at the highest level. And they will use extrinsic motivation. They will use their communication to get them riled up, to get them feeling confident that they go out there and win. So with this all being said, there are certain aspects that go into play with every scenario. So there is a scenario I could play off with this guy, let's call him Bill. Bill is a great employee. He works hard. He's pretty quiet around the office. He's your typical good employee. And he loses an important file for his boss's client. It has some sensitive information in it. He can't find it. So the manager will come down to Bill and say, hey, you need to find this file. So depending on how you approach Bill, it's going to either motivate him or could demotivate him. It could scare him off. So if Bill's a nice guy and you usually don't yell at the guy, and I come at Bill and I scream at him, he may feel scared and curl up into a shell, so to speak, and he won't perform. He needs to go find the file, and now he is, he's not looking right. He's going all 100 miles an hour in his head. But if you come to Bill and politely ask, hey, can you find that file before day's end, please? Now you are going to talk to Bill in a more common tone and a pace for him, and he'll perform the same way as he always has. And for another instance, let's say you went up Bill and told him he was going to be fired at the end of the day, and you did it in the hallway or by his cubicle where other people can hear the threat of the loss of his job. Well, that diminishes the quality of the conversation as well. So here's a chart to my right, your left, about the type of person that we're going to talk about here, and the three main aspects about communication with the motivation. So in this scenario, you have a person that is confident, okay, and you need to tell them that they need to accomplish a task. And so with a confident person, you're going to evaluate how you should talk to them. Well, right off the bat, we need to understand the quality of a conversation, the personalization of it. It's appropriate. It's not rambunctious. It's not improfessional. We need to have high quality across the board. You should never have a low quality conversation with somebody. So with a confident person, the tone can be low. You don't need to express severe rush to the whole thing. You don't need to light a fire underneath him to get him to start going right away because he's already motivated in himself. Now the verbiage might need to be high because you need to be very explicit of what needs to happen. So going on to the next person, someone that may be nervous, you need to have a low tone because if he's already nervous, you don't want to scare him even more. And the verbiage you want to have high again because you want him to limit his mistakes as best as possible. You need to be exact with what his task is supposed to be. Someone who may be more of a rebel, kind of rambunctious, just goes all over the place, you need to have a high tone because you need to make sure that they know this is a serious matter. And the verbiage can be low, because in this sense, if you're going to start talking to him as if he's a child, he might take offense to it. Just tell him what needs to get done, let him do it, and after that, you can then go to the next step of kind of going into more depth. Lack of care, you would want a tone to be low. You don't want to make him feel like he doesn't care or she doesn't care. You want to match him in this sense. It's a delicate situation, but the verbiage would need to be very high, because you need him to understand what needs to get done, and essentially just let him go about his own way to do it. So these are kind of mixing and matching ways that you could go about communicating with someone to motivate them. So just to recap everything that we talked about, there are multiple ways you can look at motivation. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is kind of the basis across the board what motivates a human. For the most part, the bottom 4 of the 5 layers are kind of universal throughout all of us. The top triangle is what kind of can differentiate. Herzberg's 2-factor needs only really applies to the workplace, but it's a great way to look at how communication can affect the motivation. As you see from the chart, not everyone it should be managed the same way. Just like a child, and I'll use sports again. Some children you can yell at to get them to perform, but that same method towards another child might make them curl into a shell, might scare them. So you always have to understand what they want. Also, when you approach someone to talk to them, you need to know if they're motivated more with intrinsic stimuli or extrinsic. That's going to help determine how you can help motivate them or yourself. So I would like to just leave you all off with this. No matter how you are motivated or how someone else is, everyone can always be motivated. It takes time, and it takes just kind of a thought to understand what is going to work best for them. So take the time and get to know a person or even yourselves to know how you are going to be motivated the best or someone else. Thank you.